Thanks for joining us today. Now, you'll recognize her from the soap opera Capital, and as the wife of John Gavin, the current ambassador to Mexico, Constance Towers has been commuting back and forth to Mexico, trying to help following the September earthquake. She's with me today as our Woman of the Hour. Please welcome Constance Towers.
You're a theme song, huh?
I know. Well, we try to do that.
Oh, you're so prepared.
Sure. We want you to feel comfortable, and you walk with a kind of a spring in your step. Tell us about.
I'm busy.
Tell us about how much spring is left in your step after
not
working
much.
And flying back and forth to Mexico.
It's been a very trying time. I mean, it was certainly a great tragedy, and the people are still recovering from that tragedy. It's going to be 2 years or so before they finally dig out of all of the rubble that they have in Mexico City. The most trying part of the last few weeks has been the tragic deaths of so many people, but also the miracles of the people who lived through it. I mean, it is just, I couldn't believe it when even, it's almost funny, but that little elderly woman who was about 80 years old, who had been buried under the rubble for over 90 hours, and the workmen, when they went in to bring her out, she wouldn't let them bring her out until they got her a blanket because she had no clothes on, and she said, "I will not be disgraced in front of my friends."
How many mothers have said, "Be sure you wear clean underwear"? You remember that?
That's right.
This really
And
makes the
also,
point of that, doesn't
I
it?
stood at the site for 2 days with the father of the little 9-year-old boy who has been buried, and it's just so tragic to see someone with such faith and belief. He was determined to find his child.
Now, will you clear this up for us? Some said it was rat scratchings. Others said it was the workmen trying their best to keep the effort going so they could keep uncovering.
Well, it's like in our business, there are just so many rumors that fly.
Yeah.
The minute something receives the focus of attention, I was there with the father, and I was there with the workmen who knew that they had someone down there. And there were tappings, of signal tappings. It wasn't just random scratching, but there were signals coming. So they knew that it was someone answering. If you tap 3 times and someone taps 3 times back, you know that you're getting a response from someone who's
How did he
hearing
know
you.
that it was his son?
Yeah, I think that was hope.
Oh.
His father was there, too. His father was a diabetic, so there was far less chance for the father to survive that length of time than there was for his 9-year-old son. And they also knew that the boy had water in the basement, which happened with a lot
I
of
guess
people.
what I was saying. The man outside was his uncle.
No, the man outside was the boy's father, and it was his father who was in there, so it was the grandfather. They came the night before. The father brought the little boy to visit his grandfather the night before. They went to the house, which was a little house, very simple little house, and the next morning the father got up early and went out to get breakfast for them, get rolls or whatever in the street. The earthquake occurred. He came back, and the little house that was standing there suddenly had a huge building
On top
that
of
had
it.
fallen in on top of it.
It really
And so
did.
they were trying to dig through the building to get the building off of the house, to get down through the house to get to the basement.
This may seem like an odd question, but since it became such a focal point and almost a symbol of hope, the fact that he didn't survive, what did that do to the people?
Well, what it did, the people stood there stoically, almost accepting it from the beginning that
There was no
they might
chance.
not find him. But they hope, because they're such beautiful people. And the Mexicans love their children so much, and they love that family so much, that they never give up hope. They were all in church. Well, you saw the miracles of the babies.
Yes. Oh, I
that
know.
came
No one
out.
could believe that. Now, you brought some footage back with
Yes,
you.
I
We're
did.
going to take a look at it now.
Okay.
Anything you want to say before we do?
Well, what the footage is it just shows you some of the destruction that happened, because from the air you wouldn't believe what you saw.
There it is.
Then a couple of the miracles. Here is one of the buildings, and when you realize that they still were able to dig people out of that rubble and that people survived, one of the sad things that happened in several of the hospitals is that there comes one of the babies. The doctor explained this to me at the hospital, that this was the very critical moment right here, because the babies were in total darkness, which saved their lives. If they
Look
had
at them.
any
They're all
light,
shriveled
and they're
up.
wrapping them because they're dehydrated.
Yes.
And they had to take care of them. This was the life or death moment when they brought them out, because the minute the light hit them, the children, the babies in that total darkness had regressed back to their state that they were in the womb. And they hibernated. And the doctors say that they're going to observe them now, because medical science is going to learn something from the miracle of what happened to these babies.
Also, they wouldn't know until sometime, unless they can test now, if there's going to be any damage with these children.
They're testing them, and they think those babies are 100%
My
all right. They
God.
neurologically are tested. Well, there, I had the privilege. I mean, this is one of those rare moments in your life to be able to go and see and touch a miracle. And they were so cute, so sweet. That little baby looked at me and cried immediately. I don't know what that meant.
I wonder what they're going to grow up and be.
I think they're going to grow up and be very, very special, because anyone who is, when the hand of God reaches out and
Touches
says,
you, yes.
not you,
Yeah.
I have something for you to do, those are going to be very special babies.
Well, you were working very hard, going back and forth. I know your husband, the ambassador, was working hard. At this end, so many were working, and we have a young lady who really represents the involvement by the Mexican community. She's an international star. She's currently seen on Falcon Crest. Her name is simply Apollonia. Ladies and gentlemen, Apollonia.
Apollonia is
There's a little...
one of the stars of the telethon. She worked so hard, and you were so successful with the telethon. How much money did you finally raise?
Boy, pretty close to $6 million.
You really, what, you beat
great?
your goal by $2 million or
Yes,
so?
we expected, I roughly thought maybe three, but we went over, so I'm not complaining at all.
Yeah. Now,
Very happy.
you were unable to go down to Mexico because of your schedule, but your father and your brother went down.
Yes, they left, actually, I flew them out the day after the second earthquake, and they were there for 10 days, and we have relatives out there in the immediate area that was left.
And
in
your
London.
family is all right.
Yes, thank God everyone is fine, but now we have more things to consider, more things that we really have to take care of.
Apollonia was telling me before the show that she was involved in the California airlift, and that they are airlifting medicines and supplies
Yes.
out once a week. You're taking them out twice a week.
Bi-weekly. This Saturday, I'm working with Operations California, which was founded by a remarkable gentleman, Richard Walden. This organization has been working since '79, sending relief to Cambodia, to Southeast Asia, to Mexico. And we're now organizing airlifts, sending medical supplies, such as, everything from even CVS and Lorimar. They're so sweet. They are sending off clothes, water purifiers. We have many, many items that are very
Well, there's so
necessary.
much
We
that's
have a
needed down
tremendous
there.
need for water. Right now, half of Mexico City is without water. And because it's almost 7,000 feet up in the air, it's very difficult for them to transport water up to them. And they've needed water bladders, carriers for the water, and then water supplies.
Exactly.
Tell them what you did about sparkless water.
Oh, yes. Well, I
She's
called and...
Sparklets is a brand of
Yes.
water that's purified here in Southern California. I don't know if it's
Right,
anywhere
it's a
else.
bottled water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're quite popular, and they have an abundance of water and water purifiers. So I call them myself and just asked them to send some over. So we're going to send those off.
And they just said,
Saturday.
okay, Apollonia, we'll send them. Huh?
This is the
Yes.
wonderful thing
terrific.
about a tragedy. It doesn't matter what people's beliefs are, their creeds, their color, their religion, their political standing. When there is a tragedy, humanity is pretty darn terrific, because they come together. And you can call someone like that, and they say, absolutely, they need it.
Exactly.
You've got it.
Now, you've got rebuilding to consider. There is
Yes.
homeless,
Well,
there are
they
children,
need
there are
hospitals.
orphans.
Yes,
And
they
hospitals?
need hospitals desperately, and that's what my husband and the embassy are working on. And Apollonia and I are going to work together
Definitely.
on this, too. What they need to do is, for instance, the American embassy has sent out telegrams to the 50 governors of 50 states in the United States. And they have asked them to receive checks from people, and people can call their governor of their state, and they can write a check, and they can send it to the governor. The check should be made out to the American Chamber of Commerce of Mexico. The American embassy is going to audit those funds that come in, so
That's
there will be
good to
no
hear.
question of where the money goes. There will be no administrative cost. It will, 99% of that money is going to go right to buy shelters, buy water, buy the materials that they need to build new hospitals.
That's where people are very concerned, is where the funds go.
Well, and in
I
some
think we
cases,
are about
rightly
all
so.
over the
I
world.
think, I think
Exactly.
auditing is a very
Yeah.
important part of this process. Now, I mentioned your brother and your father went down. Your father wasn't able to come today, but your brother did.
Yes,
and he's
my
right
brother
there.
George Cotero.
There's George Cotero.
And he's worked hard.
Now, Apollonia, you speak for the young, and boy, the young are terrific when they get behind something. What can they do?
Well, save their allowance if they'd like, $1, 50 cents. It doesn't matter. one thing that I find that's wonderful is that worldwide everyone has been cooperating. And as I always say, we are all brother and sister. We are all underneath, we're flesh and blood, the same. And it's something that is very difficult for everyone to understand. But in times of need, that's when you really know, who your friends are and who's really helping. And the whole world is helping, which is making the job for Constance and myself a lot easier.
Well, we're glad to hear that. And we're awfully glad you came by today.
Thank you
and
very
thank you,
much.
brother. Thank you, George, for coming with us. And Connie, you're with me for the rest of the hour. We've got a lot to talk about and a lot
Terrific.
to do. Thanks again, Anthony. We'll be right back.
I'm Myrna Blythe, editor-in-chief